Welcome back to another episode of Stories Sustain Us, the podcast where we're exploring inspiring stories of creativity, passion, and innovation that help shape our sustainable world. I'm your host, Stephen Shower, and today we have a guest who embodies all of these qualities and more. In this episode, we're joined by the incredibly talented Yemi Scott. Yemi's journey is a testament to the power of embracing opportunities, following your passions, and never being afraid to try something new. By transitioning from game development to pioneering digital fashion, Yemi has seamlessly blended creativity with technology to redefine the fashion landscape. We'll dive into how Yemi discovered the potential of virtual environments and 3D simulation for fashion design, and how she's been challenging the fast fashion model with a strong emphasis on sustainability. Yemi will also share her insights on how Gen Z is leading the charge with conscious consumerism and holding brands accountable. Yemi's experiences with family, cultural influences, and the journey from game development to fashion are filled with lessons on the importance of staying open-minded, asking the right questions, and collaborating for positive change. Her story highlights the importance of equality, equity, and the power of technology to bring people together for a more inclusive world. Let me tell you just a bit more about Yemi Scott, and then we'll jump into the interview. Yemi is passionate about tech, and she has a background in digital media and game development. Her entrepreneurial spirit and visionary mindset have propelled her to trailblaze in the captivating world of phygital fashion. This unique approach seamlessly combines the physical and digital realms, hence the term phygital fashion, and this is revolutionizing the way fashion is experienced. As the founder of Quirky Couture Inc. and XRology Limited, Yemi has ventured into the emerging Web3 space, establishing herself as a pioneer. With an unwavering passion for immersive technology, she dedicates herself to helping businesses harness the power of cutting-edge AI and XR technologies, aiming to optimize processes and make significant strides towards achieving low carbon emissions. Look, if you're like me and all of those tech words and acronyms don't make any sense, you're going to want to stick around and listen to this interview because I learned a lot and I'm sure you will too. So let's dive into this conversation with the incredible Yemi Scott here on Stories Sustain Us, where we are inspiring action through the power of storytelling. Well, hello, Yemi. Welcome to Stories Sustain Us. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Stephen. And you?
I'm doing well also. It's early morning for me here in Seattle, and I think later afternoon for
It is
you.
later
And
afternoon here, 4:10 to be exact.
And you are in Aberdeen, so everybody knows. Is that right?
Yes, I am. I'm in Scotland.
Fantastic. Well, your story though takes you, I think, around the world, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of the adventures you've had before you got to Aberdeen. And
Can't wait to tell you.
Yeah, and I just read your your bio and introduced you, and I also have to point out when we get to your current profession, I'm sure there's some words you're going to have to help me understand and the audience understand.
Indeed.
The physical and digital, the phygital fashion. See, I already need education. Yes, so that and Web3 and XR technologies are some terms I just used that I'm going to need you to tell me about later. But
definitely,
before we get there, why don't you tell everybody about you? Like, what's your story? Where were you born? How did you eventually travel around the world and end up in Aberdeen? What's Yemi's story?
Oh, my story. Okay, so first, yes, my name is Yemi Scott. I am a Nigerian by birth, from the Yoruba tribe. It just so happens that we do have a couple of families that have English names because of the colonization and then all of that. So yes, so when the people hear my surname, they're like, "Are you sure are you married to a Nigerian?" I'm like, "Yeah, very Nigerian." So yes, I am Nigerian. I'm Yoruba. So for me, what I say, my journey, how it all started. I won't go into the tech one first, but just my migrating and moving around. I think as a child, I always kind of also knew that I liked to move. Like I was literally always very, never comfortable staying in one place for too long.
Yeah.
Always wanting to go on adventures. The riskier, the better. So yeah. So fast forward to 2009 or was it 9 or 11? 12. Yes, early 2012, mid 2012. My husband then he worked with Shell.
Okay.
So he got an expatriation contract to go to Brunei for 4 years, and so I was just about to have our first child. Then I was pregnant, and then that move came. I literally landed in Brunei with a fresh new baby. And it's a whole new culture, completely different.
Sure. Sure.
And that for me was, thankfully, it wasn't much of a culture shock because we were on the camp, so we had diverse cultures, different communities. It was an expert community. I was volunteering with the outpost for Shell, welcoming new experts, families in, settling them in, taking them around town, and all that kind of stuff. I instantly realized, because this was my first expatriation, I instantly realized once I got in, I had to quickly shift my mindset. I
Oh
had
yeah.
to tell myself that, well, this is an opportunity. You can't keep on complaining about the things that you would like to have. The most you can do is make the best of this right now. So I
Sure.
quickly got in, started volunteering, meeting people. So by the time we were done, we ended up spending 5 years. And in that 5 years, there was a lot of movement.
Yeah.
It was almost like close your eyes and just throw a dart into the center of the Southeast Asian map. Like, where are we going to next? So there was a lot of travel in between that period. Did Cambodia, did Malaysia, different aspects of Sarawak. Did the US a couple of times as well. Of course, I'd done London a couple of times, but I wasn't really smitten with London.
Yeah.
To be honest, I had done London back in 2016 or 2009, and I wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
So when when we left Brunei after 5 years and we had to go back home to Nigeria, in that moment I just felt like I'd had my second child. I wanted to be back home. I wanted my kids to learn the culture, be more
Sure. Sure.
integrated into that, also get to meet their cousins and their grandparents. So for me, it was, let's just go back home. So 5 years in Brunei was all I needed. It was an amazing experience, but I was ready to go home. Went back home. The plan was to be there for 2 years and then pick up our bags again and migrate. Well, when the universe has plans for you. Ended up spending
Yeah.
5 years again in Nigeria. But it was such an amazing time to be home for me and for my sisters to be integrated into my children's lives. And then it was supposed to be Canada. That was the plan. My husband then had now left Shell and was now
Yeah.
looking to pursue his career in renewable energy as opposed to fossil fuel, because he's a
Okay.
geophysicist. So he was like, I want to change my career. I want to do something new. So he had applied to a university in Quebec, but then the wars broke out. They were bringing in a lot of the refugees, so a lot of visa processes got delayed. And then out of the blues, I think between October of 2021 into December, Aberdeen came on our radar, and we're like, oh, okay, Aberdeen or Sterling. I'm like, oh well, let's do Aberdeen. We do have family here. I'm like, let's do Aberdeen. So we came
Yeah,
here, and my
it makes a
first
good choice.
instance, it was a good choice because it was instant love at first sight. Coming to Aberdeen, I'd heard so many gloomy, dairy tales of Aberdeen. Oh, it's so boring. It's so grey. It's always wet. It's so cold. So I came in with that
It's
expectation, and I
yeah.
came in. I'm like, but it's sparkly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
granite, it's sparkly, it's beautiful, there's culture. So yes, hence my new home now in Scotland, and I've been here since 2022.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. In Seattle, when my wife and I, we moved here a couple years ago, and we heard similar stories. It's so gray and gloomy and rainy, but no, we love it.
You,
It's so actually, it's beautiful. There's just, because it's so wet, there's so much green and there's so much
oh
life, and it's
yes.
just such a beautiful place. So Let me take you back a little bit in time, Yemi. So your family, you have siblings. What was life like for you growing up? You said you were a risk taker, an adventure, some child. What are some stories, if you don't mind sharing, some of the adventures you
Okay.
got into as a youngster?
Well, this is recording. I was like, if you repeat them, you all know what's going to happen.
Yeah. The
Okay.
safe stories you can tell.
Indeed. Yes, as a child, I happened to be the last of three girls. I have two older
Okay.
sibling sisters.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I was the terror within the I was the last. I was the one that could get away with murder. When my sisters needed stuff approval, they were like, Yemi, go talk to the folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
They listen to you anyways and everything. But I was also very, very outspoken as a child. I would always speak my mind in a lot of situations. And coming from an African culture where we all know that it's normal for children to be seen and not heard. But
Yeah.
strangely, my parents never curbed that with me. They allowed me to express myself to
Oh,
the
nice.
fullest, even to points when they are mortified by what I've said and had to apologize on my behalf, like profusely, like, oh, we're so sorry, she's just a child. I have stories as early as when I was like 3 years old,
Yeah.
having guests coming to the house. And I just noticed this particular guest, he always seems to arrive when we're having tea,
Yeah.
we're having dinner. So a day he shows up and he was really well dressed. I'm like, oh, I must have been 3. I'm like, oh, is it your birthday? He said, no. I said, interesting. I said, how is it possible that you keep appearing only when we're about to eat? Yeah.
That's a fair question.
And my parents are like, oh my goodness, no more stay for dinner. And he was like, no, thank you. That was the last time I heard he showed up at such times again. So yes,
That's
for me
wonderful.
also, my immediate older sister, we used to have this thing we used to do. She used to tell me stories. So she'll make up stories for me. We used to read a lot of enlightening books. So eventually she would tell me, oh, you know what? I'm going to come up with a story. And because she gave me more detail than the book, so I would ask her, it was real time storytelling for me,
Yeah.
immersive storytelling as early as that age. I'm like, so what was the doll wearing? So she would give me full explanation. Or it was a lace something. And I would like, I am so
Nice.
sold into that story. And then my dad got a computer when we were like, I was 7 and she was
Yeah.
9. The first computer that we had then was back in the 90s. And he's a civil engineer. So he was using it for his AutoCAD projects.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
whenever he was done, he'll be like, oh, he knew that we liked exploring. Like, okay, you can have the system and play around with it. So we started playing games like When the World is Coming to Dengo, Prince of Persia. So we're learning how to mixing chemicals, potions. We had to read the whole 12 volumes of the encyclopedia back to back by then because there were so many questions within the Way the World is Coming to Dengo. So we're learning places, we're learning things. We
Nice.
knew what velocity was, what was speed. We understood the concept of physics because we wrote and coded our own game.
Right
We called
on.
it Gorilla Bars. It was
Yeah.
just two gorillas on the opposite side of the screen throwing bananas at each other, and they have to aim so that they can blow up the other gorilla. So that was how we're
Yeah.
able
How old were you when you coded your first game?
I was 7 years old.
7. That's fantastic.
So that
So
was when
you
I knew touching the computer, I would
you were
learn
hooked.
PowerPoint myself. I was very proficient in doing slides, proper animated slides by the time I was 10 years old. So
Nice.
my dad used to tease his team then that, oh, look at you. She's only 10. She can teach you how to use PowerPoint. I would now play games all night. I would literally just sit on that computer. So I knew at that age that I never wanted to do anything that was not related to computers. And again, of course, I also loved my dolls. I
Yeah.
had so many of them. I would make clothes for them. I would make hats. At some point, my mom used to have to count our exercise books back then when we used to have exercise books given in school. And,
Yeah.
you had the 60 leaves and the 40 leaves and the 30 leaves. So she literally had to count them leaf by leaf to make sure we hadn't ripped out pages to make paper dolls, come up with some ridiculous stuff. Her magazines were like, it was free game for us. We would cut out stuff from magazines, we'll stick them on our dolls. And she was like, you need to stop cutting my things. But we thankfully didn't get into too much trouble.
Too much trouble, right?
Mhm.
So I can see where your passion for computers and passion for fashion started, at such a young age. Thank you for sharing that with me. That really
You're
helps
welcome.
me see where it started for you and where this journey really began. And so did you, as you progressed through your childhood and into teen years, and did you get, ever progress into formal education into programming, or was it all self-taught? I mean,
Oh,
how did you get to where you are?
interestingly, I went my when I went into senior secondary school, they call them S1 here after the primary school, and
Mm-hmm.
when you get to the mid senior school, you are allowed to pick your subjects and focus on in a particular area. So we had the
Yeah.
arts, we had the sciences, and then we had the commercial class. I would
And these
have
are like when
loved.
you're a teenager?
Yes,
Is
as a
that, yeah.
teenager, say
Okay.
between 13 and 14.
Sure.
So when that time came, I wanted to do sciences. I really wanted to be a surgeon. Like I felt like I could handle some brain surgery. I'd been reading a couple of books, like really old books from the 80s,
Yeah.
where they write in the very old English and you're learning about some kind of surgery. So I was engrossed. I was like, oh, that would be bad, But then
Yeah.
I figured I had to do physics. I had to do technical drawing. I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. Or what's the
Yeah.
next option? I couldn't pick arts for obvious reasons. African parents do not classify arts as a form of study.
It's not a
They
profession.
don't think
Yeah.
it's a profession
Yeah.
that is serious enough for you to
Yeah.
this is what I do. So I'm
Wondering
like,
if
okay.
your civil engineer father was pushing you or encouraging one direction or another.
Oh, funny thing is that he was quite very supportive of whatever it was I wanted to do. I used
Yeah.
to love dancing as well. So he used to tell me that, oh, if I had the money, I would have taken you abroad, gotten you to a ballet school or something like that. So
Yeah.
my parents were very open. They allowed
Nice.
us to actually explore what we wanted to do, and they supported us really greatly. We even used to draw little miniature comic books. Myself and this sister that used to tell me stories, we got up to a lot of stuff. We had a radio station that we would record all the action, the door slamming. There was a whole production behind that,
Nice.
all of that. So we explored a lot, and he saw it, and he'd be like, "Oh, if I will help you publish your books." So it was always encouraging us to, do whatever it is you want to do. If you are happy with it, then I'm fully supportive of that. So he never pushed anything, but I just knew that I never wanted to have a 9-to-5 job. I did not want to work behind the desk. I wanted to have a job that allowed me to be outside doing stuff, interacting with people, and definitely being creative. So the commercial class for me was the only other option. I just figured, okay, if I do commercials, it's not art, it's not sciences, but I still get, it's almost like a nice round balance. And that's what I did. Though I had no intentions of doing anything in the commercial classes. But when it was time for uni, I ended up doing mass communication as my undergrad.
Okay.
So mass communication, majored in copywriting, advertising, finished university, didn't get to have a career in that field. I immediately jumped into TV production.
Okay.
Back then, so I was
Nice.
I was trained from ground up. I was behind the cameras, in front of the camera at some points, presenting, producing travel log shows, and all that kind of stuff, scripting. It was literally all hands on deck. We did everything. Everything. Camera person, lighting technician, makeup artist, wardrobe consultant, set designer. We did it all. So it was while I was doing that, and then there was an opportunity to now be in front of the camera. And I did that for a while, but I just realized that I don't like to be in front of the camera. I like to be behind. I want to be the mind behind certain things. I want people to ask, who who did that? And during the course of doing this, I did win 2 awards for like the most creative editor and like the fastest rising video editor within the organization then. So at least for me, it was like, okay, at least you are doing what you like to do. It might not be exactly that thing that you wanted, but at least you're learning something. And it was still related to mass communication. So it was a win-win for me in that moment. And then I started dabbling into 3D animation as well, designing my title animations, so my recordings, and so that I could have a unique presentation. How I did my show was very unique to my own style of editing. And that
where were you producing the show? Who are you working for?
It was in Lagos.
Okay.
The organization had it was a religious organization.
Okay,
so yeah. I should state that. So it had branches spread across different parts of the world. So the time most of what we're doing was airing in South Africa because they had a network station. So I was handling like programs for a certain channel within that network station, but ours was more into like the travel log. So we got to travel within country and out within the African continent as well. And for us, we were just looking for opportunities to meet people and just literally like what you do, just interview them like, this is beautiful, what are you doing, and all that kind of stuff. But then I got tired, I guess, of constantly having to prepare for the camera. It takes a toll on you.
It does. Yeah, these shows take a lot of effort behind the scenes to create. I can understand that and appreciate that. It's a lot of work. People don't see that work. They just see the final product. They don't see everything that went into making that final product. So I can appreciate the energy it takes to put into producing something that is winning awards and something that you're very proud of. So I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what other question did you ask? I think I might have skipped something.
No, I think you got. Yeah, I'd asked you where you were working at the time, and
yes, I was working. I was working at this TV station owned by the church. So yes, it was a massive organization, like I said. So I had a team of sometimes 5, 6, 10. We were going to have to record like proper crusades where you had like 10,000s of people in a stadium setting. You were doing like you were either being part of the security detail, controlling the crowd, doing some form of marketing for church publication. So it was literally doing everything all at once. But it was fun while it lasted. Again, like I've come to realize, I remember then my husband would be like, you have to choose one thing. You can't be, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do all of that. And for me, I was like, but why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? If I like to do these things and I have the capacity to do all of these things without letting anything slack behind, then why not? So for me, it was always a why not? I will do it if I am interested, or if it excites me enough to want to do, I will do it. And during that period, of course, also came the self-learning. I had to teach myself softwares because I was like, oh, I like this animation. If I see something, I'm like, oh, well, how can I create that? So I'll download different softwares, I'll learn them, I'll explore it, and then I get feedback. And if I hear it's good, then I keep pushing on until I have my own thing. And then, okay. So for me, it was always the fun of the tech behind all of that. Like I was working with technology. That was all that mattered to me.
Yeah. Well, I gather, what I'm imagining from what you've shared so far, you've got this spirit and energy about you that part of the joy of life is learning these new things and pushing yourself and experiencing and growing personally. That's what I'm picking up from you, I think. And that's such a wonderful way to live, that you're always expanding your mind and always growing. And I can appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah. Yeah. So you transition a little bit, I guess. How did you get into kind of the world that you're in now, where you're matching your digital game background and game development background, and then eventually, I think we'll transition into how that connects to fashion. So tell me a little bit about that, transition in life as you're getting eventually here towards Aberdeen again.
The transition, I think I skipped a bit, but I'll quickly touch on it. So while
Yeah,
we were in
please.
Brunei, there
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
because I was going in as an accompanied spouse, you were not allowed to work, but
Okay.
you were allowed to, they would sponsor your further studies if you wanted to go into masters or anything. So I
Sure.
decided to do my masters in digital media with the University of Newcastle, Australia. It was a virtual, it was an online course, but there was a part in that course that we needed to log into a virtual environment, and it was the course that was on game design.
Hmm.
So the lecturer was like, "Oh, guys, of our next lecture, I need you guys to hop into, go and create an avatar and show up in this world." I'm like, I have never heard of this one before. It was called Second Life. I've always been a gamer. Like I said, I play games. My favorite title is Grand Theft Auto. You know, and as a hardcore gamer,
You
I
are a
do
hardcore
Sims and
gamer,
everything. So
yeah.
I'm like, how have I not heard about this place? So I'm logging in, I'm signing in, I'm creating my avatar. In the process of creating the avatar for Second Life, wanted to I wanted my avatar to be an exact representation of who I am
Oh,
in
okay.
person. I
Yeah.
wasn't planning to go in as a dragon
Yeah.
or like a little fairy. I wanted to go in as myself. And what I realized was that the selection of clothes to pick from, the digital clothes, it wasn't a very vast selection of
Ah,
African prints and all of that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to go
yeah.
in very flamboyant, but I didn't have frills. I didn't have all the things I liked. So I'm like, it would be nice to design for this space. And that was back
Yeah,
in 2015. Fast forward to 2016, I finished my master's and I was browsing. You know how they say Big Brother is always listening? So I
sure.
was browsing on Google and suddenly this software pops up on my feed called Marvelous Designer. And I'm seeing what they were doing using 3D simulation for fashion. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I need to go and download this software and learn it myself. So I'm downloading the software in 2016. I'm logging in so excited. I get a 30 days free trial and I
Yeah.
open it and I see patterns, like actual dress patterns. Like I needed to understand bodies drafting and I had no idea. I'm like, okay, I see what the problem is here. So I close down the software and I go
Yeah.
and enroll with a proper seamstress. So I go in and actually
Ah,
started to learn how to make
real
garments.
world seamstress, not virtual
No,
world.
not a virtual
Yeah, right. So yeah, just
a
you're
real
learning
world
the real world
seamstress.
skills so you can eventually make the virtual world match the real world.
Exactly. So
Right,
I was
right,
like,
right.
okay,
Yeah, yeah,
if I'm going to do this, then I better do it well. I need basic knowledge that I don't have. I need
yeah,
to
yeah.
learn
Of
that knowledge.
course.
So I went in and she started teaching me. I think I was supposed to do 3 months. But I think I did maybe 2.5. No, one month and a few weeks. Because I would
Yeah,
go home and I will go on YouTube based on whatever she has taught me. I will further along my learning, whatever,
sure.
create something that she did not give me to do and then take it back to class just so that I could get her feedback so I knew whether I was on the right track. And if I hear, oh, good already. As soon as I got good already, that was done for me. End of
Right,
class. I
right.
went back into the software. Now I had the knowledge I needed to be able to create
Yeah,
in that software. So I started to create and I started to research. And the more I researched into this all through 2016 into 2018, I was like, I was seeing so many potentials with the technology. I was seeing the route to sustainability. I was seeing the route to trying to finally shining light into the creative indigenous communities that have kept the craft for so long. I was seeing
yeah.
how I could tie this into a virtual, like my own brand, my own fashion brand, but it was
How
going to
exciting.
be a phygital brand. And so the phygital is the physical and that digital component. So that's what phygital means. It has
Love
a
it.
physical and a digital component. So I would send designs to my clients using like augmented reality, or I'll send them a video of the simulated design so they can see how the fabric moves and they can see how it will flow and how it will drape. And so they would give me their feedback then, oh, can I get the sleeves that way? So for me, it was slowing down fashion.
Yeah.
Prior to even starting with, I think when I started exploring with the tool was when I stopped shopping. I literally I stopped going into fast fashion, any kind of,
Mm.
no, normally you go on holidays, you're constantly looking for the, the outlet malls.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to shop, you want to do that. But after going into that software, it completely changed the way I consumed fashion. I
Yeah.
would rather thrift before I buy anything new.
Yeah.
I would upcycle, I would recycle what I had. So for me, I was like, okay, if this is the pathway that you've already taken, then you can also start to recreate that and extend it into the larger public. Of course, they did not understand what I was doing with the digital aspects. My clients, all they knew was that I was creating these pieces. So I was hand making each piece that was ordered by myself. It was just a solopreneur business. And then COVID came.
Ah.
COVID came. Yeah, COVID was. For me. I felt that it was essential to helping me to pivot at the time I needed to pivot the business into where it should be going. Because by the time I started the brand in 2018, I had hemorrhaged. I wasn't making any money because I wasn't charging for
Sure.
the tech. I was just charging like I would charge for a regular, seamstress, because I wanted
Ah.
people to be open to the idea. So for me, it was not profit first. It was how do I make them aware, share the knowledge that this is an option. And then COVID came, I had to check my accounts. I had to go do some tax, reconciliations. And I
Sure.
was like, oh, it seems as if I had left the intent and initial purpose of why I started what I started to do. And the reason why I said I wanted to do what I wanted to do back in 2015, which was to use the tech to drive sustainability. So I had to completely re-strategize my whole business plan. And I just went off the physical and just focused on the digital aspect and
Yeah.
started to build on that. I started to find my community because back then I was just in Nigeria. There was, I talk about what I did. People was glazed look, they're like, you say you sold for who again?
Yeah.
Not human beings. I'm like, no.
Not yet.
So they couldn't wrap their head around it.
Yeah. Let me tie in a term you used a little while ago, just in case there's folks listening or watching who might not have picked up on the term, but you'd mentioned fast fashion, and that in the realm of sustainability, that term is used for, as you mentioned, Yemi, I think, and correct me if you think differently, but how we typically, traditionally over the last several decades have viewed fashion, where folks go to the mall, like you said, or now order online because you can get things. But things, it's the physical clothes that we wear, but it's the fashion industry kind of telling us to be to be cool, to be fashionable. We always have to buy the next new thing every new season. We have to get something different. And what folks might not recognize is the fashion industry is a very heavy resource intense industry, because of this business model of always forcing the consumer, if you will, through
Following
advertising to
trends.
get the next new thing.
Yep.
And the consequences of that, particularly for for us maybe in the West who don't think about where our clothes come from or think about the consequences, is that we don't think about where those clothes are made, in Bangladesh or wherever, and there's all kinds of environmental harms and problems happening in these places where our clothes are made, and because there's this constant demand for the next new thing,
Yep.
so that fast fashion is really not sustainable. It's not really what is the way the world should be functioning as far as how we clothe ourselves. So I really appreciate that you picked up on that, and that's something that we need folks like you to start changing the way we do business around fashion, because it is such a resource and pollutant heavy industry that we just don't think about. So did I capture all that right as far as
Oh,
fast fashion
yes.
from your perspective, so folks understand the
Yes.
sustainable significance of what you're doing?
Indeed, you did capture it Perfectly, Steven. In fact, the fashion industry, the second largest pollutant industry, second to the aviation industry, and because we don't think about it that deeply, when you
Right.
think about it, you're like, if the aviation industry is the first and fashion is the second, how much are we really, really, what is the damage that is really being done? And
Right.
I'm from Nigeria. I see the how fast fashion has completely destroyed our own landscape with the land feeling of a second-hand clothes being dumped on our in our waters, on our shores. And I know that this I'm not just speaking for Africa. I think I can extend it into Asia and other parts of
Sure.
of
Of
this country.
course.
I'm like, the damage that this is doing is so significant. And the thing about fashion is you have to interact with fashion. It doesn't matter whether you're fashionable. It doesn't matter whether you're trendy. As long as I did not show up on this for this podcast naked,
Right.
I had
We
to
all
put
we all got to wear
something on.
clothes. Right.
Exactly. So
Right.
everybody is constantly interacting with fashion one way
Right.
or the other. And fashion is such that nature provides us with a lot of the materials that we use to create these garments. Of course, because nature cannot meets humanity's over consumerism,
Right.
then there has been the introduction of these pseudo materials, the plastic fiber ones, that is damaging to the earth, the skin. It does not degenerate, it doesn't decompose. There is no circularity planned into the whole fashion design,
Right.
the
Right.
garment production. People are just producing. And then again, you look from the other angle of the fast fashion and you're like, well, there's been a major economic decline when it comes to financial, the economic stability generally globally. Like, people are literally struggling to feed themselves, keep their homes warm. How do you tell these people that, oh, you should buy sustainable or buy
Right. Right.
they're
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't
Right.
even have money. I'm not going to
It's
pay $150 for a
premium prices
jacket.
for sustainability.
Exactly. So they're not thinking in that line. They're just thinking of survival. Like,
Right.
what is the quickest, the cheapest, where, and like, you can't blame people in the same vein. So
Right.
hence the technology.
Yeah.
How can we use that to level the playing field for anybody, everybody? And the joy for me is that this generation, the Gen Z, I love them. I love the Generation Z. They are phenomenal. They are phenomenal when they are driven in the right
Yeah.
direction.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I
Why are
tell you
they?
more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Yes, please. Tell me
I'm a
more. Why do you love them?
millennial.
Why are they driven?
Oh, why are they driven? Okay, so I'm a millennial, so I am definitely not Gen Z, but I do
Yeah.
identify.
I'm an Xer, so I'm even older.
Oh, the complete.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh yes. So the Generation Z, for me, coming in as a millennial, we saw the good and we saw the bad. We knew when there was no technology, and then we came in when technology. So we've seen both sides of the
Yeah.
coin. And you see this generation now that they do not have brand attachment.
Mm,
they don't have that, oh, it has to be Gucci, it has to be Hermes. It's a generation that does not care for brand names. They are very individual in how they want to identify themselves. If
yeah.
they choose to wear a plain beige hoodie and joggers, and that's their entire look for the entire month, they're happy with that.
Right.
They like their t-shirts, they like their sneakers. Street fashion for the Gen Z is like second, it's like breathing. So they're not concerned with acquiring luxury. They would rather actually even put their money into an indie designer, somebody that is a small
Yeah.
community, and they like what you do. Oh, I also like Skull and Bones. Oh, I do graphics in Skull and Bones, and oh, I love them. And do you do them on t-shirts? Oh yes, you get a community. You started your own fashion line. So for the Gen Z, I like the fact that they're also very conscious. Yes,
Yeah.
when people hire them, they're like, oh, they don't have work ethics.
Yeah. They're not working hard. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
always the
I'm
Gen
sorry,
Z complaint.
should humanity not be concerned about their mental health first?
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
Generation Z is just that gender is just like, nope, if it is not helping my mental stress, and if it's giving me stress, I will leave. You
Yeah.
know, they will not stay in a place that they feel uncomfortable or they feel like they're being pulled from side to side. So for me, those amazing qualities, of course, we now look at the cancel culture, you know, where they can cancel a legend, you know, that has been in the industry for years, and just by one thing, they completely just alienate you, you know, and there's no coming back from it. So I like the fact that when they are channeled to a cause, they can make such very massive changes. Unlike our generation, like you are Gen X, so you know what I'm talking about. You know, the
I do.
generation
I do.
of smile and take it. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
let's not talk about it. You know,
Yep.
hard work is, you know, the reward for, you know,
Yep.
success. That's how we were trained, you know. And
Absolutely.
so for us, when we see this generation that is so, they almost seem erratic. They almost seem as if they're not, you know, but they're very conscious. They're very conscious in the sense that they're asking questions now. Where is that coming from? It's only because of the Generation Z that we're starting to see the amount of greenwashing that the
Yes.
luxury, you know, fashion, you know, industry has
Yeah.
been tabling and giving everybody and feeding us all
Yeah.
the,
All
because
industries are greenwashing. Absolutely. All trying to sell us on their sustainability when if you dig deeper,
when we
it's
know
just
did we
marketing.
exactly
Yeah.
when you strip each material down to the nitty gritty,
Yeah.
there is material there that is still not toxic and should not be
Yeah.
included. But of
Yeah.
course, we for us, like I said, we just want to buy whatever it is that is available. Who is asking questions, you know? But
Yeah.
this generation, they will ask you, and you better have answers, because if you
Yeah.
do not have the right answers, they will cancel your brand.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
simple. Even Mark Zuckerberg had a taste of it. So you can't mess with this generation.
Yeah.
They can smell BS from a mile off. And so if you
I
come to them
love it.
and you're not authentic and you're not being honest and you're not being transparent, then they will call you to account. And if you cannot give account and you cannot answer their questions, that's it for you. Your brand is
Yeah.
done. This is the generation. We're talking about Generation Alpha. This is the next generation that will be the ones spending for the economy. How do we attract these guys
Yeah.
if they're already showing signs that they are not moved by names? You know, they're not moved by all these things. How do you, you know, engage with them to get them excited about you as a business, as a product developer, whatever it is you do? You need to be able to appeal to this generation in
Yeah.
more ways than just, you know, looking pretty. They have to know that there's substance, you know,
Yeah.
to your brand. And that's why I love Gen Z. So that's my few short
That's I can I appreciate them all for the same reason. They're really shaking things up because of everything you just said. So I don't need to repeat it, but I agree. And it took me a little while to get there because at first I was stuck in my mentality of like what are they doing? But then everything you said about, you know, how they are questioning and how they are and you know, I had a couple weeks ago on the show a Gen Zer Ramandeep and you know, it's just lovely the energy that she brings and you know, I as I'm getting older, I'm feeding off that young energy because it's inspiring. It's and the fact that they won't take BS, like you said, they see it and they call it out and they won't take it. You know, unlike maybe my generation, like you said, of we're just supposed to just, you know, go along to get along. I really appreciate the way they're shaking the world up, and because the world needs to be shaken up. We need to do things differently, and it's their future, and they know that, and they're not afraid to you know, ask those tough questions and hold you accountable, and that's what we need. We need more of that. So. So Yemi, let's get back onto you and your business. How are you doing that? How are you then making your transition? What is it that you're doing these days in this digital physical space that you know, I want to make sure we give you proper time to talk about what's your business model and what are you doing?
Okay, so yes, indeed, I have the digital fashion brand that
Mm-hmm.
is that exists in Nigeria. Is registered as a Nigerian entity and also in Canada. Although the now both inactive because I'm here in Aberdeen and I can't split myself into three. So
Yeah.
after arriving in Aberdeen, oh, by the way, I should give credit to a platform that really helped me to build and find my
Please.
community.
Yes.
and that was Clubhouse. I remember
Okay.
when I did start my digital fashion thing, everything was back in Nigeria, and of course, I couldn't get the kind of interest that I needed. But a friend told me once, have you tried Clubhouse? I think I've heard some very, very random and strange conversations down in the Clubhouse street. I think you might find your tribe in that, I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Shall I? Yeah, I'm like, what's this Clubhouse? This was just after the lockdown. And I had not had all of this experience. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go find them. So I went into Clubhouse, and then I started to go into spaces where they're talking about digital fashion. I was coming to spaces with the Fabricant, Dress X, and all these big players in the field. And I started to realize, because every time there'll be an opportunity to come on stage and either ask questions and share experiences, I'm never one to have questions to ask. I always just have something to add. So I will go on stage, and then I will add something, my experience, what I've been working on. And it was always the same reaction of, oh wow, and I started to started to build my confidence in what it is I've been able to accomplish. And I started saying, oh, you know what, you are actually a pioneer in the space. Like, when I started to do digital fashion, it wasn't a thing. There was nothing like NFTs back then.
Yeah.
I'd already
Yeah.
created my own metaverse store back in 2019, when there was nothing like metaverse back then. I just knew I never wanted a, a, a a wall. I do have something for walls. I just don't like them. So
Yeah.
I wanted to have that my virtual space where I could, explore. And I did build myself one. So building all of that, working within the Quirky brand, having this metaverse integrated into it. Also during the lockdown, I had an opportunity to do a game development bootcamp.
Okay.
And then it was like a bootcamp for 20, and I ended up being one of the top 3 developers that got picked to work on this project. And it was a project that was sponsored by the Templeton Foundation, and it was to help see if children or teenagers could be taught empathy through immersive games.
Oh, right on.
And we were working on that together with
Yeah.
the VHCI lab that is a house with the Lagos Business School. So that project for me was almost like it was the final puzzle piece I needed from back in 2015, which was, I would like to create for this space, but how do I make it more immersive? So doing that whole bootcamp was okay, now I know how to create digitally. I actually know how to sew physical garments. I know how to design the 3D spaces. I know how to create my own digital avatars for my brand. So I didn't have to hire any models. Because I had the background coming from the media aspect as well. I could go into like virtual editorials. I would go into the spaces. I was creating digital movies for artists that wanted
Nice.
a replica of themselves, but I didn't want to do their videos in using their own, regular video recording. And they approached me like, would you, do this? Create an avatar that looks like me, and these are my songs for my album. And I did work with one of them to create something. And so all
Nice.
of these experiences now coming into Aberdeen for me was like, okay, you have this. This is a new opportunity. What is lacking here? And I started to attend events. I was talking to a couple of people. Because of the Clubhouse thing, I knew the power of networking. I understood it
Yeah.
now. So I
Yeah.
was integrating myself fully into the ecosystem. I had my ear down to the ground. I was listening. I was meeting people very intentionally. I wasn't random. I would hear their names, and I would hear what's their field. Oh, maybe the head of digital transformation for the One Tech Up. I'm like, she's the one I'm going to talk
Just
to at the
got a
end of this
contact.
event.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I am zoning into her, and we're having conversations. And as I talked to these people, I could see that this ecosystem was so supportive. That you have the business gateway, you have the One Tech Hub. There's so many the Barclays Eagles Lab. I have Startup Grind, Foras. There are so many solid ecosystems here that are so supportive. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, well, you better start another something else here while you're here. But it can't be just one aspect of what it is you've done. It has to be a full integration of everything that you now know. in the space. In this during this time as well, I had consulted for Newton X, and surprisingly, my first client happened to be Meta. so,
Nice,
so
nice.
I was having that
Just a
consultation.
little player in the virtual space.
I know, and they were looking for experts within
Congratulations.
the space we're building. And I'm like, you should have done this first. This was like 2 years after the whole thing just went,
Yeah,
belly
yeah,
up. And then there was that whole thing about, oh, the metaverse is dead. And then they were losing money and they were having to fire staff from
yeah.
Meta because they were not making any money from this venture that they were focusing on. And they were asking questions. And I remember the lady telling me that, oh, everything you told us, that nobody else has given us this kind of insight, and all that. So again,
Nice.
another confidence boost, like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
now you can sit as a consultant and actually help people understand the full spectrum of Web3. Web3 is not just NFTs and crypto and blockchain, which once people hear, Web3, it's that instant, association.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, crypto has not it hasn't been the best, in terms of helping us to convince people that this technology is worth it.
It's
So now
helpful,
I'm in
sure.
this space and I'm like, okay, now I can start to show people that there's more to Web3. Web3 is the entire dark technologies. It is DeFi, it is AI, it is digital twinning, it is augmented reality, it is quantum computing. Like, this is all aspects of technology, and anything else coming on top will be layered on this technology. So the
Yeah.
earlier you get in, the better for
Into it.
you. And
Yeah.
so I now started XRology
Mm-hmm.
Limited here in Aberdeen. It's been
Mm-hmm.
registered in 2022. And in this short space of time, it's been there's been so many opportunities that have been presented. I was able to do an accelerator with Elevator UK. I finished that. I also had an opportunity to go with a cohort of 45 strong tech female startups in Scotland. And we had a few
Nice.
men in the group, but we were sponsored by the Scottish government for the Lisbon Web Summit last year.
Okay.
And for me, that was like, okay, then, I was able to pitch. It was like from 30, like 60, and then we'll cut down to like 20. And then we had another addition. So that for me it was almost like, this is like everything that you have done. This is everything coming to fruition,
It's coming together,
having
right?
this recognition, being part of this cohort where there are strong female leaders doing amazing
Nice.
stuff. They have raised Series C's. They had, these are people that their revenue was already in hundreds and thousands, to be in that space and just form that bond, even when it was not related to business. Also being here, I have collaborated with a group called Black and Scott. We had a little fund from the Aberdeen City Council, and it was to create new West African pieces that was donated to the Aberdeen City Library. So we
Nice.
have 3 pieces now sitting there. So my part was to help them integrate technology into the whole design process. So I took them on AI workshops. These were designers that have been in the space for 20 years. So for them, designing is always 2D sketches. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
ladies, let me
Yeah.
show you the new
Let's.
technology.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So took it on, and they were so open to it, and we did this amazing thing. We created a metaverse gallery, where people could go in that can't access the physical pieces, and we also had AR assets of the same pieces with the virtual models, and they could interact with them in the space. So it's
Cool.
sitting now. If you ever come to Aberdeen, do stop by the Central Library
Yeah.
to have a look. And then, there's just been so much going on. I also have something coming up with Tech Fest. I've done something with the University of Aberdeen. Did
Okay.
like a workshop on health tech and AI. Just teaching the cohort how to use ChatGPT for like developing business models, your business canvas, training that AI to actually have all your information, and you can still go back to it and keep on regenerating different aspects of that business regardless of whatever it is. Also did something with the Grey School of Art in line with the Black and Sport event. So we took a workshop with a fashion department, the year 1 to 4, and
Nice.
they were showing them, the designers came, they brought the pieces, the they could touch them, and we just realized while we're having that workshop that everything we're saying from our own cultural aspect as West Africans is still the same thing that they are also trying to, achieve here in Scotland, which is how do we, retain our traditional textiles? How do we find that place where we can cross culture, bring these fabrics and make them more modern? How do we have waste? Can we take what we have wasted and can we upcycle them? And we then realize that there are so many, very similar threads running through. I mean, like, we should be working together.
All these connections.
We should be working together, creating pieces that we can showcase, to show this cross-cultural integration. Because Aberdeen is so multicultural, and we wanted to show that. And it's been, I don't know. I know no, yes, indeed, the business is still a startup. Let me just put that there. It's not like there's any revenue.
We got to start somewhere. Yeah.
What the thing for me is that it's just a joy of being able to share that knowledge. So when people ask me, what do you do? In the words of my friend Nico Farah, I'm like, I'm a Web3 evangelist.
You definitely are. You are that. So thank you for bringing me up to speed on everything that you're doing. And
welcome.
I want to give you a little time here before we get to the end for a call to action. What do you want people to take away from this discussion? And it can, how they can support your, new business, or how they can support just this technological evolution that we're in the midst of, or whatever. What's your call to action? What do you want people to do now that they've gotten to know you a little bit, Yemi? What's
to do people? Let me look into the camera.
Yeah. Tell us what we should do now that we know more.
Stay open. I always say stay open, be open-minded, be open to listening, to learning, to getting more information, to exploring these technologies. Yes, AI is the new kid on the block, and it seems to have taken over, and people only talk about ChatGPT and Midjourney, but there is so much going on. There is a lot going on. I think they must have like the AI tools coming out every other week, must be in their hundreds. So there are so many tools out there. Don't try to learn it all. Just ask the right questions. And again, I will say, whatever it is you want to do, we have left the realm of when you need somebody that knows somebody to help you get a leg up in, your career, or anything you want to do. They maximize technology. Anything is possible right now. When I speak to younger kids, because I mentor younger kids, I tell them, everything you do is content. Protect it. It's your data. That is your data. While you're watching other people produce content, you should also learn to start producing your own content, because content is king. Once you start to learn to create from your own space, you finally have the opportunity to bypass a lot of the government regulations, the things that do not really, there is never for the betterment of the public. It's always the government that has a hidden agenda, and they're going to profit from this. But with these technologies that are coming in, there's always a way to equitably, transparently, find your niche. You will find your community. And that's the beauty of this age now. It's the tech age. I tell people this, when we had the .com age, when you had to go online and you had to first press the modem and you had to wait for that little connecting sound before you got online. Can you remember how far back that was?
The dial-up ages. Now. Yeah.
Your phone connects to free public Wi-Fi,
to the world.
Hotspot, and I'm like, that age, it took such a long time for it to come to where it is now. But this tech age, it's not, this is accelerated. It is moving really fast. We're not trying to scare people, but the truth is that if you do not adapt now, you will die as a business. It is unfortunate because by the time you want to catch up, the technology will have changed again. And then it's redundant, and then it's overwhelming, and then you don't know what to do. Just ask the right questions. I am available. Call to action. You can always reach out to me.
How do people get in touch with you at Xrology? Xrology. How do we get in touch with you there?
So get in touch with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn as myself, as Yemi Scott. But I also have my Xrology business page that I link to that. But most of the time, it's mostly me on LinkedIn, just sharing knowledge, sharing what it is I'm doing, what I'm seeing in the space, the people that are also doing amazing stuff in the space. I have a lot of different ventures that I'm working on and helping them to build their own MVPs right now. So I help people to build Web3, I don't know, design spaces, whatever, but at a very, very effective and efficient cost. Because when you talk about Web3 building and development, it's always the high cost and the financial commitment to it that is so, it scares people away. But I know that there are tools that we can maximize and leverage on to give, even if it is just a little, dip your toes in it a bit before you commit full scale to it. So I help people to build, you want to test the metaverse out, you want to test how you can integrate Web3 technologies at a cost that is not going to break the bank. Call me. I'm your girl. And I have a network and a pool of amazing Web3 developers that I've worked with them. They're doing phenomenal stuff. You're talking about Unreal Engine, blockchain technology, smart contracts, creating NFTs, tokenization, gamification, interoperability. I know I'm giving you all the words now.
Yeah, you are.
I'm bombarding you. I'm Steven.
Yeah, well, I will put on the show notes page your LinkedIn connection and your Xrology connection, so anybody listening to this or watching to this can get in touch with you and take you up on that offer to dip their toe in the Web3 pool with your assistance. So we'll make sure to promote that so people get in touch with you. So we're kind of nearing the end, and I end every episode in a similar way. If folks have been, we're on episode 7 now, so if folks have been watching all of these or listening to all these, they know we end every episode in the same way. And I end by asking all the guests the same 3 questions, and these questions are about hope. Hope isn't a strategy, right? We need to have other things that are our plans of actions, but hope is needed in order to get us to that desire to do the plan of action. And we're living in a world that's full of some really hard things, and we talked about fast fashion and all of the pollution and damage that does, and so hope's important.
Yes, it is.
So I've got 3 questions for you, and I just kind of give you the first response that comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be a long answer. It's just kind of what's your gut reaction to these questions, and I'll throw the first one out there. And it's this idea of hope is not only can we envision a better future, but it's something that we have some agency that we can take steps to make that vision a reality. So the first question for you, Yemi, is what's your vision for a better future for you personally or professionally or for the world? What's your hope? What's your vision for a better future?
I know it will sound cliche, but equality for all man for me will be one thing. Like everybody should be seen. Yes, we know that. Yes, they say, well, the fingers are not equal, but equity for me is very important.
So tell me why. Why is that your vision for the future?
Because I feel like if everybody's working as a collective, when nobody feels like, I'm better than that person or this person is better than me, it removes a lot of the unnecessary bias, the unnecessary, having to overthink things. Everybody's just there working for the same purpose. So for me, it's how can we work together as a collective, because humanity needs to come together I mean, the planet that we're on, if anything, COVID taught us was that when humanity steps back, the planet can heal itself. So clearly, we are the pests, you know.
Yeah.
We are the pests on the planet. In fact, someone said that what if we were all on Mars because Mars had water, and then we destroyed it, and then Adam and Eve had to take a pod, an escape pod, and landed on Earth, and that was what caused the Big Bang theory, the Big Bang, and then that was how we had to start a new evolution in humanity. I'm like, there's that possibility. We clearly need to think as a unit. And if we can come together and it is focused on pure intentions, it's everybody, it's all for one and one for all. Basically, we need to come together. That Ubuntu mentality that if I can do for one, they can do for me. And then I know it's an utopian,
Well,
I'm a very idealistic person. I have been told that, but I'm also I'm like, why not?
Yeah, idealism and realism can come together. So the final question is: now imagine your better future, an equitable future where we're all working together and striving, for more pure intentions in the world and making sustainability and advantages equitable for everyone. Imagine that's happened. It is the world we're living in now. How do you feel?
That I never have to work a day in my life. That I can finally travel the world, visit the ancient sites. I feel at peace. Not
peace.
Right now, I feel peace, but to have that at a larger scale, not just what you're creating within your own internal bubble, I think it would be such a breath of fresh air. There'll be that sense of just belonging, that, there's no strife. Humanity can finally go back to what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be nomads. We're never supposed to be sitting stagnant in one place. We're supposed to move like Moana. Yes, we're supposed to.
Nice.
We're supposed to be canvassing, traveling the sea, sharing our culture, bringing in new culture, so that there's that oneness, so that humanity starts to realize that there's really no difference between all of us. We are all just the same.
Yeah.
We all want the same things.
Yes. Well, I'm going to do my little part to help your vision come to be. That's I share your vision for a better future, and I hope whatever little goodness I can add to the world gets us there one step at a time. So, and I know you're going to do the same on your end. And thank you so much, Yemi, for your time today. It's been lovely to get to know you, and I wish you and your startup grand success. And,
thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, we will follow you and watch you and continue to support you and cheer you on as your dreams grow and become reality.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the opportunity as well. Thank you to the Chainmakers Alliance, because they were like, you need to speak to Stephen. And I was on the sustainers. I'm like, I'm all down for that. So thank you for heeding the call and doing this, because I know this is not your 9 to 5. So this for you as well is that sacrifice of the collective. That what passion. Can I do? So I am so grateful that you decided to set out to do this and to give us this platform to share our stories and just be honest as best as we can. Thank you so much. This was such a lovely podcast.
Well, thank you as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a pure joy for me because I get to meet people like you around the world, and how wonderful is that my world has just now expanded even more. I might be, yeah. All right, Yemi. Well, thank you so much. And with that, I wish you well and cheers. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of Stories Sustain Us. I want to extend my thanks to Yemi Scott for sharing her incredible journey with us today. Yemi's story is a powerful reminder of the magic that happens when we follow our passions and embrace new opportunities. From her adventurous world travels to her creative evolution from game development to pioneering digital fashion, Yemi's journey is truly remarkable. Her emphasis on sustainability in the fashion industry and her challenge to the fast fashion model are both timely and essential. I was really eager to talk to Yemi this week for a number of reasons. I knew she was going to have a lot to teach me about tech, but I also wanted to learn more about her challenge to the fast fashion industry. As we talked a little bit about that in the episode, the fast fashion industry is really notorious for not being sustainable. It creates these inexpensive clothes that are just bombarded to us by advertising. So it creates this kind of consumer loop where we have to buy the new clothes to be in this season. And the next season, there's new clothes. And the next season, there's new clothes. So it's this really consumerism intense, unnecessarily consumerism intense type of industry. And look, the human brain is hardwired to want to belong, right? We're a social species. We need other people. We need to be part of a group. And those who are really adept at marketing and advertising, they know that, and they use that desire to belong to help sell their products, right? You got to buy this to fit in. You got to buy this to be cool or be part of the in crowd or whatever, right? And the fast fashion industry is really notorious for that, and particularly targeting teens by making the teens really kind of feel or understand that they have to look a particular way to belong, or they have to wear these clothes to belong. So that's really harmful to the teens in many ways. And again, it creates this unnecessary consumerism where we're buying more stuff than what we really truly need. And on the environmental side, fast fashion is also notorious. It's a very water intensive type of industry. It's kind of notorious for pollutants. The dyes and other things that go in to make the clothing can be problematic environmentally. And then socially, you look at where these garments are often made in places like Bangladesh or other developing nations, where these individuals aren't paid a whole lot to make these clothes. And then they're also the societies that have to deal with the environmental fallout of the water intensive usage and the pollutants that are part of this process. Also that these clothes can be made and then shipped across the world to places like the United States and Western Europe to be bombarded with advertising so that we buy more and more and more. So the fast fashion industry is notorious for not being sustainable, and it's really, I think, a mess. So embracing sustainable fashion alternatives, I think, is crucial to mitigating these harms and promoting a more ethical and environmentally friendly fashion industry. So I want to thank Yemi for her challenge to the fast fashion industry. Additionally, Yemi's vision for a future of equality, collective collaboration, and the positive power of technology is something I think that we can all aspire to. I'd like to thank Yemi one last time for sharing her hopes for a world where everyone is seen and valued and where cultural diversity is celebrated. Her encouragement to stay open-minded, ask the right questions, and maximize the potential of technology leaves me inspired. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you found Yemi's story inspiring, please be sure to share this episode with your friends and family. Click the like button, leave a comment, and follow the show so you know when new episodes are released. Speaking of new episodes, next week on Stories Sustain Us, we'll be traveling from Scotland, where we just spoke to Yemi, to Singapore, where my next guest is a sustainability manager who is on the front lines of reducing mining emissions and carbon intensity, proving that business and sustainability can go hand in hand. You'll learn why tracking and measuring impact is crucial for driving improvement in sustainability efforts, including sustainable finance. And you'll learn about the importance of balance in ESG reporting and the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And if you don't know what ESG is, you'll learn about that next week. And you'll also learn about Muay Thai boxing. Yes, we talk about Muay Thai. So from mining emissions to Muay Thai, you're not going to want to miss next episode of Stories Sustain Us, which is available on August 6th, wherever you listen to podcasts, or on storiessustainus.com. Until next time, I'm Stephen Shower. Please take care of yourself and each other. Take care.